Hi, Rick Seymour back with you. When I was taking flight training, we spent what I thought was an amazing amount of time in ground school before ever setting foot in an airplane. I just wanted to get in the plane and fly. Turns out there are a few important things one must learn before getting into an airplane, like what keeps it up in the air for starters. A significant part of ground school was studying and memorizing emergency procedures. It is important to understand all of the things that can go wrong and know what to do if it should happen. Airplanes have a nasty habit of falling out of the sky if you do the wrong thing in an emergency. I didn't memorize all of those things that could go wrong and what to do about them in hopes that I would get to use that knowledge. But it gave me a very significant comfort level knowing that I was prepared. The most important lesson to be learned is that regardless of anything else that's going on, you must fly the plane. Now, that may seem patently obvious to you, but when things start going wrong in the cockpit, it's very easy to get so distracted by the problem that you're not paying attention to actually flying the plane. That's when most accidents happen. When things start to go wrong and you lose sight of your goal, it's very easy to crash and burn. The first time I ever took my wife up, who was petrified to start with, we hadn't been in the air 5 minutes when the whole electrical system died. Now, how do you think she would have handled the situation if I had said, listen honey, under your seat there's this big, thick pilot's manual. It's got a blue cover on it. Would you mind pulling that out and look up in the index electrical system, failed, and see what it says I'm supposed to do now? But you see, since I'd memorized the emergency procedures, I had it diagnosed and back online before she even really knew there was a problem. We will always be more effective when we anticipate the things that may go wrong. As an aerospace engineer, I was involved in several of the early space programs. Skylab, the first ever space station, the Viking lander on Mars, early shuttle programs, the first capture and repair of an ailing satellite. In fact, the design of the manned maneuvering unit, that jet-propelled backpack that the astronauts used to fly around outside the shuttle. One of my jobs was to conduct what we called a failure mode and effects analysis. Basically, it entailed dreaming up anything and everything that could go wrong, from hardware failures to something as simple as an astronaut flipping switches in the wrong order. It was critical to try and anticipate anything that could put the astronaut's life at risk. It is what I call the what-if game. What if this happens? What if that happens? What if that happens before this? What if this never happens at all? I tried to exhaust every possibility ahead of time. Then we created a fix ahead of time so that the astronauts didn't have to mess around, sit around, scratching their heads trying to figure out what to do next. It was important that they spend as little time as possible in life-threatening situations. Now, in many cases, it meant building more redundancy into a system so that there were backups in case of a failure, but more often it meant predefining a set of procedures to get them back on track. A plan B, if you will. So what has all this got to do with your plan? Our plans often go astray. Unfortunately, Murphy has a nasty habit of showing up at the most inopportune times. And no matter how well you plan, you won't anticipate everything that can happen. In addition, right from the start, you know there will be things that conspire against you accomplishing everything you set out to do. When things go wrong, instead of sitting there scratching your head, it would be much better to have thought through the most common challenges and already have a fix in place. Already know what you're going to do. You won't be stopped for nearly as long, and you'll certainly get back on track without losing as much momentum. Think about Nehemiah. He set out to rebuild the wall of Jerusalem. When King Artaxerxes asked Nehemiah, "For what do you make a request?" Nehemiah had a very clear and specific goal. He told the king how long it would take, told him exactly what he needed to accomplish the task. He had a well-defined plan that took a whole chapter in the Bible to describe. He enlisted the other stakeholders, painted them into the vision, got their buy-in. Quote, "Then I said to them, you see the trouble we're in, how Jerusalem lies in ruins with her gates burned. Come, let us build the wall of Jerusalem, that we may no longer suffer disgrace. And I told them of the hand of God, which had been upon me for good, especially the privileges that the king had given me. And they said, let us rise up and build." So they prepared themselves for the work ahead. You see, Nehemiah did it all just right. But that didn't mean that the plan would be executed flawlessly and without challenges. In fact, they had to build the wall with their tools in one hand and weapons in the other. in anticipation of an attack by Sanballat and Geshem. During the building of the wall, Nehemiah had to endure ridicule, threat of attack, discouragement, whining of the people, compromise, slander, fear. In fact, it took 3 chapters to describe all the problems and the challenges. But he did get the wall built. Now, hopefully you never encounter all that Nehemiah did in the pursuit of your goals, but know there will always be challenges. Be prepared. Plan ahead. Have a contingency plan. Above all, stay focused on your goal and fly the plane. If you would like more information or resources related to this or any other topic, go to godinyourgoals.com.